Alright, so I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I've been doing a lot of these blending and stacking videos with the old Blood Noise signal blender, and when I was first getting my pedal board together and thinking of how I wanted to do things and work the simplifier into the rig, the idea was to be able to use all the amps and things that are available with the HX Stomp, but then use, of course, the analog components of this when needed. And I really like the XLR outputs on this. So my ultimate goal was to be able to have a, say, like an analog path and a digital path that I could choose or blend and still be able to use the most features here. So I wanted to run through a few different scenarios that I kind of worked up for this. The first one being actually using the Blood Noise signal blender here. I won't be using it for everything, but this is kind of how it started. The idea was to have, say, like the digital path on path A, the analog on path B, and then of course my clean signal that I can blend there. And to save time, I've already gone on ahead and made some of the different settings in the HX Stomp that I'll be using. So that's my clean tone right now. So if I turn on this, so that's the simplifier that we're hearing here. So it's responding to that. Drop the volume down, or the gain. Mess around with the volume. So that's it right there, and then let's hear the HX Stomp. So I've got this sent into the input, coming out the output. I was using the send left originally when I was doing this, but I like having the control right here on the main volume knob. And I think I'm using, which is it? Yeah, the Panama, which is like a 5150. Also, for those that are interested, I'm using my LTD MH1001 with the active EMG pickups. Tuned down a whole step as well. So that's the digital. That's the analog. But when I put them both together, it works, but there's like this really like kind of nasal quality that comes in there, very telephone-like. And I'm sure I could like EQ around it, but I'm pretty sure what's happening is that this being analog is having like no latency, and this is having just the teeny tiniest bit of latency. So even if I like flip the signal on one, that telephone sound is still there. So because of that, even though this was kind of the original idea, I see what's actually going to be the reality of it. So if I mix, say, like the digital and the clean, it's still there. But if I mix like the clean with the analog, it's got that clean signal mixed in, which I could turn down. I'm not getting that telephone sound like when I turned that on. So because of that, even though this is kind of what I was hoping for, I don't think that I'm going to be able to plug it in like this. So let's go ahead and just start unplugging things. I'm going to try out something different now. We're going to try going to the MK2 first. So that's going to give us like our analog signal just right off the bat. So guitar straight into the simplifier. Just get all this stuff out of the way here. So guitar into simplifier, and then I'm going to go from the send of that into the input of the HX Stomp, and from there I'm going to return in stereo Here's the interesting thing on the HX Stomp. The output left is the mono, and here on the simplifier, the mono input is actually the right. So I'm just going to ignore that, put left to left, and cross the right over to this one here. And you'll see that one right there, I've got this other setup here. So what all do we have going on here? I've got this triple rotary effect, delay, even got a filter on here, the ratchet delay, which is kind of interesting, a shimmer reverb. Those are both on path B, and then both coming back for room A. So basically I'm hitting the front end of the simplifier here and getting the tone stack, the gain stages and everything, and then all these effects here on the HX Stomp are going to be like post. So I'm coming from the send to the input and then returning in stereo back to the simplifier. So I'm still getting like the IRs. If you can hear those changes and everything. All right, so I really just wanted to kind of push the boundaries of the HX Stomp and its stuff, because a lot of times I'll wind up using amp stuff on here, and that takes up a lot of DSP. So I was kind of just loading this one up to see what all I could do. So I really wouldn't be using all this stuff here, but it's kind of just seeing what's out there. So let's see. The master volume on the simplifier is affecting some, but that's still going to be before the effects loop here, so I can really get more out of the volume by turning up the HX Stomp. So I'm getting like the amp pushed. I can even give it a little bit more drive if I like, and then just compensate accordingly there. Let's turn on this stuff. So this has got the filter on the A path and that shimmer reverb on the B. I'm still kind of getting a kind of telephone sound. I think that's mostly coming from the filter. And I've never actually messed with the ratchet on here, but it's kind of cool. So what you do is like hit a note or a chord or something, and then while it's, as you hit that, and it like just catches that note and just takes off with it. So it's kind of a cool effect there, one that is cool to throw in if you got a need for that. Let me do that with the reverb on, actually. See if we can kind of trill it out. So I like caught that note and then just turn it off like that. Interesting. Does it actually have trill? Normal. Interesting. I'll have to do a video looking at just the ratchets sometime. So you see that we got more options this way, but I'm still stuck with just the analog stuff that we have in the simplifier. So basically like a Marshall, a Vox, and a Fender, whereas you've got like over 100 options, I think, as far as amps in the HX Stomp. So let's maybe see what we can do with that. So this next one I'm going to do, I go from the HX, or from the simplifier, and I'm actually going to do it a little bit different here. So I'm going to go, instead of going into the input of this, Let's unplug some of this and just go on to the next setting here. So I'm actually going to go from the send of this into, let's say, return left. And then from here, let's use this output left, which can also be set to a through. So the purpose of that is I'm going to get my signal. Just go into that. Let me make sure I did that right. So this one should be the right path. That one is the left. I think I actually need to reverse that. Let's use a different cable here. All right. So the idea with this one now is that we're kind of doing the same thing where I've got the guitar running into the simplifier and then coming out of the send, and I'm going from there into the right, just aux return into this, and then I'm coming out of the through output of this, so it's just got my dry signal and it's running into the left return on this. So the point of that, once I get everything plugged back in, because I'm going to do the stereo, right goes to right, left goes to left. I could have just left those the same, I guess. But what I've got going on right now is this signal on the left here, that's going to be my actual dry signal. And then it's running into a Panama, 5150 there. So again, that's just my raw signal. If I turn off the Panama, the tone knob got turned down a little there. Turn that on. And I could change that if I wanted to any of that. So let's just put it back to the panel. Bring down that channel volume and the master volume just a little bit. I can bring it up on the master volume there. But let's hear, so that's the dry signal. Let's hear the simplifier coming back in. Now the reason I've not got like a path dry signal coming into it is because I'm using the two returns here. So they're actually set up as like two different blocks. So that's the return left. This is the return right. The right is the one that does have the simplifier tone stack and everything on it. While, oops. Let's see. I think I got it. Yeah, we're back to it. It's the one thing you want to be careful of, is that you don't turn the wrong knob there. But I was able to get a set back. So blending the dry signal and the well, I guess the analog signal and the digital, that was what was giving us that kind of telephone vibe where I was running straight into this thing first. But now, since both the signals are running into the return of this, we could assume that some of the latency is getting added to both of them. So let's see when I turn this on. Okay, so that's just the raw signal running through the digital amp. That's just the simplifier, which I can adjust some of the volume there. Do these things. Okay, so I made all these things in advance so I could get through them quickly, but I'm just kind of jamming on stuff here. So to me, this is probably like the best sounding one that we have so far, where it's actually doing the simplifier, then returning to reusing both of these returns. So let's try one more thing. Let's start with the HX Stomp and then put the simplifier in the loop of that. So last time here, let's see what I can change and get away with. Take all this stuff away. Just save that. And then this last one here. So I'm going to start with this, and then let's see how I made it. Let's see, we're going to use the effects loop left. Use this to send. Go to the input, and then let's use this one. Come from the send back to the effects loop left. The difference between a send and then a return, and then the effects loop is the send is just sending the signal, so and not trying to look for a sound coming back. So if you're like sending your sound to an amp or something, that would be a good way to use that, and like bypassing the cab stuff, like put that block before the cab emulation. But the way that we're doing it right now is going to be a little different. So guitar into the HX Stomp, send is then going to the simplifier, and then the send of the simplifier is returning, and then we're going back to the simplifier in stereo, which you are hearing. So I've got a tube screamer set at the beginning here, then I've got, which would be running to both of those things. Chorus, I'm probably not going to mess with that. Then I've got the effects loop, which is returning to the Panama, and then kind of a Marshall thing on the B path right there. So I do have analog on this path and digital on this path, so we might encounter that kind of telephone sounding noise. So that's both. So you can hear, actually, let's see. Need to do the effects loop. Actually, let's try that. Oh, that's why. So right now, that what you're hearing. Now I got a little. That's what I did. So I've got the simplifier now running on the A path, and then I've got that Marshall kind of emulation B path. And here we do have that kind of telephone like tone where there's a little bit of latency causing that. But if I switch from the loop, so I'm going to completely take the front end of the simplifier, this stuff over here, out, and it's kind of like a dual thing now. So I've got 5150 on the A path, or the Panama on the A path, and then the Marshall on the B path. So that does not have that latency kind of sound that we were hearing there. So just something interesting to keep in mind. Let's do this. Let's get rid of that Marshall sound right there. Oops. Let's say clear block. Okay, and that puts us just on a single path there. And now I'm just flipping back and forth between those two. So that's cutting out the first front half of the simplifier, but you can hear the cab simulation is still in effect. Okay, so that is the simplifier. That's probably the most consistent, just what we're getting out of here. So the volume will affect that. So that sounds good too, and we see that there's kind of options, as far as being able to stack the digital amps and then running just the simplifier sound there, so that it doesn't get that kind of phasey kind of latency quality to it. Of the four things that we tried out there, I think that ultimately the third choice is the one that I thought sounded the best and would give us the best options there, and that's starting with the simplifier and then having the sound from it, like the tone stack, running to one of the returns, and then having the through signal, which is one of these back here, and you have to flip the switch to get it to not send the what's coming through here. It's wanting to get like the straight guitar tone sent to there, back into here. I think that third option is probably the one that has the best. Again, I thought that option number one was going to be the coolest and give me the most control over it, but what it did to the sound wasn't ideal there. So I might consider that when I put my pedal board back together, going with option 3. I hope that this is at the very least been enlightening for you. I tried to get through it as fast as we could here. I plan to get to some other videos and things here soon, but thank you very much for your time, and I will go ahead and wrap it up and talk to you soon. Thanks.